All right, let's jump into things. 10 past 11 on the 5th of November. Geez, I don't feel so like we've sort of last couple of days of October and all of a sudden here we are, almost a week into November already. But yeah, we got RBA Tuesday coming. So, so I'll start off with Aussie just on that sort of front because, of course, in the background, we've still got the election stuff happening as well. We've got New Year's daylight savings just in the US has ticked over, so everything's pushed back. As you can see, DXY doesn't open till 12 o'clock at the moment. I really can't stand sort of summer trading actually in Melbourne, just for that sort of point that um, it really just, the whole day takes forever to get going. Like, you know what I mean? We don't really sort of see the volume until a little bit later. And I know that, obviously US is asleep, but still, when you're using DXY to sort of try and sort of gauge what's going on with the other parts of the market, it just pushes everything back a little bit. That's why these analyses get a little bit later through the summertime. Much prefer sort of getting things done a little bit earlier. But nevertheless, we push forward in that. We can still work off what Aussie's doing right here. And just a little recap of yesterday. We obviously had that big gap up, and that is actually traded very well for this sort of plan initially, because we sort of got the break up here, and as again, these are more price levels opposed to timing sort of things. But there we go. If we get onto a lower time frame, we can see this pretty well. That came up here, kissed this line, this little area, and sold straight down, retested top side of where we obviously had seen the sellers. And as soon as it got back down to that, you got, whether that's people sort of closing their shorts when they were trying to sort of like hold these areas, and they're just like, oh, let's get out of it. That's obviously buying, push back up over here. Unable to on that second push, though. I mean, I guess this would technically be the second push. The third push coming through here, sellers stepping back in and holding that line at 66.10, 66.12, whatever. A couple of points here and there with that. So, as we are at the moment, it's obviously still holding this back test. So we can sort of move this just back here a little bit so we got a bit of a clearer picture. So lines still remain that you want to see a break of, 66.17. That sort of little area that we saw yesterday. So we can sort of almost do a little bit of this. And it seems to be holding us pretty straight line down here. I don't think this lines up very well. I mean, it could be. We can work off this. Regardless, the idea is obviously sort of immediately above the 90s again, 92. We could see that's in its own little box here. As I said, look, even though it's DXY, Aussie's not part of DXY, this is the time of day where you need some sort of indications and flows because the volume is just very low at the moment. There's Melbourne Cup or whatever on today, but I don't think that's really going to be doing too much at all. And I guess you got maybe sort of people sort of awaiting RBA this afternoon as well. So, look, I don't think so much of the latter there, but I think more or less this little sort of potential sort of downward channel could be something that we work off here. So, given that above 92, we look for a touch up of this line. I mean, it's only a couple of points up here. Break out of this line here, we then sort of look for 66.08 as our swing high, take out the sort of previous highs as I mentioned from yesterday, and then sort of, potentially see this leg moving up through here. So that's a positive side move in that. As I said, I think the bigger factors at the moment are obviously the RBA is going to be weighing into this sort of thing, but it's pretty much sort of guaranteed that it's going to be a hold. So the press conference, which is an hour later at 3:30, is going to be the sort of determining one there. And what people are looking for there, are they going to sort of come out? Is Bullock going to come out and sort of sound a little bit more dovish with the sort of with the talk? Because they've got parameters and they're sort of saying, look, they want unemployment up, they want core CPI consistently sort of down into their 2 to 3% band. Neither of these have been met yet, so. It's on. Maybe they could sort of say that the CPI is on its way, maybe, but certainly it's not there yet. And also, unemployment still not pushing up, and employment has been quite strong. So it really doesn't look like they're going to be doing a cut today. So I think pretty much the stock standard expectation is that they're going to be holding, which is fine. and just want to sort of see what she has to sort of say. Are they happy with the direction of everything moving? And, if we continue to see movements in these directions, that, we could be sort of looking at sort of like, February or so for a rate cut. We've got one more rate decision in December for the year. Then they take January off, and then February would be the next opportunity for them. So if they come out with a bit more of a dovish tone, obviously that's going to put a little bit of sort of pressure down on the Aussie. You've got this big gap from yesterday, which, at the moment, like has obviously not closed. Um, so we can sort of see potentially downside moves to, say, close that gap and then sort of see what happens. So that's the downside idea with it all. As I mentioned there, there's sort of levels we're looking for to get above to sort of move back up to the top side there. This is just based on the RBA. Then you've got to factor in what's going on with the elections. So the elections are tonight, Australia. So look, the thought with that has sort of been that Trump winning has been sort of miles ahead. The idea that if he was to win, he's going to be hard on tariffs. Tariffs are going to be kind of inflationary, and that's then going to have the spillover effect that the Fed will have to be a little bit more hawkish, sort of moving forward to combat with that extra sort of levels of inflation. And also, probably a little bit of unpredictability as well seems to be the sort of the fear idea of it all with Trump sort of getting in. That was undone over the weekend, which is basically what caused this large sort of gap up over here. It obviously sort of like has had quite a significant effect. Like I haven't seen a gap this size on a Monday morning for quite some time in FX. We had that big gap in oil last week, oil gap down, which I think is pretty much undone now as well. Um, but certainly not for a Monday here. So this is a big shift. And it's obviously not just on Aussie, it's on Euro, it's on DXY, all these sort of things as well. Um, so that's the market going, hold on, wait, maybe it's not so clear cut that we thought it was. And there was a couple of sort of polls out. You can't see me doing little inverted quotation marks there, but a couple of polls coming out there sort of saying that maybe Harris is a bit more of a chance than originally sort of thought. So that was the sort of the pushback here. I don't know if we're going to get a decision straight away. Like, honestly, I'm not 100% up to date with sort of their sort of process of it all. Of course, you sort of like sort of think, okay, well, if they're pushing forward, one of them concedes, and on they go. But given sort of previous things, I think it's going to be large disputes from both sides. So who knows? I mean, look, end of the day, that's uncertainty. Market doesn't like uncertainty, and obviously, so it's more sort of like equity markets, but Aussie is a risk asset in that respect as well. So that's another thing that could also be sort of weighing on Aussie. And we've seen Aussie being absolutely smashed. I mean, realistically, it was only 2 months ago. Um, well, this is start of October, so 1 month ago, sorry, that we were trading up, yearly highs at 69 cents, and now we're all the way back down here. So, look, it has moved a long way. It has broken out of this little wedge, as this is what we were saying, the buyers. We just want to see that this maintains. So the buyers keep going and putting pressure up onto the top side here. So realistically, above 66, a close up around here is what you're looking for. You're looking for the buyers to go, yep, let's do it. Let's push it up here. It can come up here. Sellers can be matched where we've seen them previously. That's fine. We want to see sellers hold it above 66. We want to see this sort of continue progression up here. If we see that the buyers give up this level here, as I said, back down previously where we've seen them, close that gap, back down at 66.50. I think this is a pretty crucial level for it to hold at the moment. 30-point move down to here. There's no gap. I mean, there's no trading through here. The times that it has cut through these areas, you can see fast movement, and then of course fast movement, fast movement. So this area here really seems to be. I mean, if I'm sort of saying this as I look at the chart, but I mean, if you look at every time that it's moved through these sort of sections here, that's a big candle, big candle, big candle. That's just a couple of candles, but it's very much straight, straight. Yes, it's chopping over here, but it's straight down through here. So there's a good chance that if it gives up this level here, we see it trading back down at 66.50. and we sort of see how that goes. But I am in the idea, and as I've said the last couple of times, that we do have a little bit of reprieve coming with the Aussie. Even if it is just up to get to a level to sort of sell back down over here, I think the fact that it's broken this, even with that large gap, it's broken out. It seems to be holding for now. It just needs that push above 66 to sort of confirm, in my opinion. But then we sort of look, okay, where are we looking at here? We're looking probably, there's no reason why on a bit of a run it can't push back up towards 66.90, which sort of seems like a fair way off now. Of course, you need some more drastic stuff, DXY, to be sort of settling down a little bit further for that to be happening. But remember, that still only brings it to the 38% pullback of this big move down here. 66.33 is the 28%, and these kind of areas are still very much sell down momentum. But if you want to smash this thing down, again, same sort of thing as we had with DXY a couple of months ago. Much better to sell it from this area to go down here than it is to continue pushing it from the lows already. But that being said, I've been trying to short through this period here. And as you can see, these little arrow pushes here, this is the areas I was trying to sort of add and sort of get on the short side of things, but it just never got there. It just sort of, it didn't really respect anything. It just kept drop, 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 drop. There was no back retest to sell down further. So people were just selling it no matter what. So yeah, in that in mind means that very much so you could just see the thing roll over as well. But at the moment, I'm Aussie optimistic, I suppose. But I do think that we could potentially sort of get a little bit of a pushback up over here. I think you need to respect the idea that there was that large gap on DXY, and I think the market's going to sort of chill out a little bit on that moving forward. But as I said, RBA today and also um, the election tonight, that kind of those things don't really care so much about your levels. They like the right, wrong, whatever way you want to look at it, wording can really just make things go bang in the other direction. So anyway, again, that's the overview of it all. Long and short, as I said, I think this box is going to be crucial for us here. We want to see it stay above 80, 79, 80, above 92. So quite a little tight little range here. If it does break up above here, I think there's a good chance that we see a test of these over here, and potentially even it could just sort of end up ranging through this period over here. But at the moment, it's pretty quiet, sort of really sort of trading in a sort of like 7, 8 point range. Flip across, we've got gold. Gold tried to bounce back. I mean, it certainly did a decent effort. Yesterday, it's just sold down immediately and then just went bang and charged up. But we can see that the buyers are very much holding this level here. So what you want to sort of see with this at the moment is obviously because these little pushes in of themselves are going a little bit higher, but they're very much being matched with the sellers coming down each time. So I think let's just put a little box on the top here and say that's where you want to see above. I think there's a lot of work that it needs to do at the moment to sort of prove itself because it is trading quite heavy. But for the time being, it's holding this line here. If you see a lack of buying in these sort of like 30 to 33 kind of area, then we look down for the next levels, and I wouldn't really regard this so much. I think, look, it kind of played its part yesterday, sort of gave it a little bit of a springboard up. But I think if you go down underneath 30, we're looking a move down to 16 to 8 kind of thing, and maybe we potentially see another round of I'd say buying, but maybe profit taking, maybe sort of like another effort for some longs up through here if it does take down the bottom side there. Up above top side, above as we said, we got to 48 last night, so above 48. It looked like it was going for a second there, and then obviously bang, sort of fell on its head. So above 48 and then above 60, they're going to be your levels. Like we do have this little level coming through here, which we have sort of seen respected a couple of times. So, you may not need to get necessarily above 60, but certainly a close up around towards 60. You want to see it be able to do what these bounce candles couldn't do. So we've had a second push down. It's held double bottom, but now it's just ranging and consolidating this area here. So there's pretty clear cut lines for them to get above. Like, you know what I mean? You can use your confirmation here, you can use your confirmation there, and you can use your confirmation down here. So for now, it's really just, maybe buy the supports, sell the resistance till we see a close outside those two levels. Silver, pretty similar sort of story. It does have this sort of falling resistance, respected very strongly. Sort of, was this Friday? Yeah, it was Friday. After NFP and bang, smack down. We can see same thing. Buyers are holding this little level down the bottom over here. There is a little range just in here now. As I said, this volume is just very light at this time of day. So, you can see these little levels where sellers are still, even though we sort of broke out of this kind of downward channel. So all it's done at the moment is really just stop falling. You know what I mean? It hasn't actually, it's just consolidating the lows. But again, above, 32.60, above 32.90, well, you're still going to run into some trouble here. So realistically, 33.15 opens you up to sort of recover a little bit more. And we'll look up around sort of 33.60. But a little bit of work to be done here for sure. So I've put on the 4 hour. How does it look? Yeah, I mean, it's obviously, look, it's tried to rally. It looked okay, and then bang, smacked on the nose. So there's still some people pretty keen to sort of sell this. It's holding the horizontal for now. As I said, above 32.60, might see a little bit more of a reprieve here. We are seeing this continue with the RSI to be pushing up. It is tipping over a little bit now, but certainly as it sort of came down last night, because this is your next low, the pressure was still quite strong up here. I think this is just a funny time of the day. So particularly if this sort of pushes down and then flips, that'll open this RSI back up and then sort of open it up for a little bit of a move. Back up towards, as I said, 33. I think 33 is really going to be your breakout level, say 315 and change. DXY. Okay, so what chart have I got this on? TVC. Okay, for the 4 hour, it looks like a big massive sell down here, but I think if we put that onto the 1 hour, it'll show the gap. And that's the gap. Bang, we got it coming down here. So look, it is a very scrappy sort of chart, of course, but as I've said, the whole way sort of coming up through here, this is the kind of top you want to see on DXY. A fail, bang, jams back up, fail, jams back up, fail, jams back up. I said over the weekend as well that this price action through here was very odd because NFP was incredibly weak. And, again, if you're looking at that as a whole, you're sort of thinking, well, super weak. Economy is kind of like, not in the best state if they're only adding 12,000 over 350 million population. That's not the time you go, yeah, let's buy DXY US dollar. You know what I mean? It just, that does not work. And obviously, that with the sort of, as I said just before, the rebalancing of that Trump trade has sort of like led to this sort of sell down sort of on Monday, a big massive gap down. Look, it is sort of coming up here, found a little bit of resistance, as I said, no price action as of yet. I do think this looks, I mean, as it's looking right now, it looks like it wants to curl over and sort of have another sort of little sit around the lows down here. This will give Aussie and metals a little bit of a pump up. But we don't have any indication yet because it hasn't opened. What you can kind of do with these things a little bit, doesn't really count, is use Euro, because Euro obviously is a very strong inverted correlation with DXY. So you can kind of see what's happening here and kind of think, okay, well, what's going to happen with DXY? But again, you want to see those flows. So look, around this area here, we had it marked out. If it can hold here, look, this could open up and gap up over here. You just don't know at the moment. Like this election thing is really quite a sort of a turbulence, I think is probably the better word. Turbulent time to be sort of trading these things. So I think the best thing to do is to try and trade as best defensively as you can. Take your profits in those little periods where possible and that because yeah, these things obviously, as you can see here, like I'm sure there was people that were short Aussies and short Euros and all these kind of things going into the weekend and they just got blown out. And, you know what I mean? Obviously DXY, very strong thing, very hard to turn around. We are sort of seeing these lower highs come through here now. This one obviously pumped up over these ones, but over these ones just here at least. But, all in all, this is what you want to see with the DXY turnaround. But in saying that, the election keeps rearing its head as a thing to sort of consider. and that could really get your trading back up over here, particularly if it seems if Trump wins. So yeah, a little bit of a tough read at the moment, but as it is, just with the chart, if we sort of get rid of this for now, clean up a few of these things. Oh, also, no, I'll keep that one. Get rid of these things, yeah. So okay, so we're seeing a little bit of a gap up here as to whether that's going to hold or not. Remains to be seen. So 11:30, 11 o'clock. Okay. Anyway, whatever. I would say, look, if you get above, say, 104, you could see a bit of a push up towards the top side over here. You got a horizontal here, you got a falling resistance, and then maybe close the gap kind of thing. So I think any sort of move up to here is still going to be sort of subject to getting sold into. A break above here, you look to close the gap. That'll generally, when gaps close, you see a bit of a reaction as well. I'm just having a look on another chart as well. So yeah, it looks like we got a little bit of a gap up, only 4 points or so with DXY. As to whether that's real or that's just start print, well, we'll see. But as it is at the moment, it is in this little sort of downward kind of pullback. Where are we at? Kind of still only at the 23% of this whole move. So look, I still think this has got some flare-ups to go. I don't think this is just going to go bang and sell down like this here. So I'd be still pretty cautious with what we're sort of trading through here. China, yuan got smacked yesterday, like all these other ones. Big gap down here. It sort of had a little bit of stuffing around underneath this sort of support zone here, but you can see the importance of this zone, and this is why we marked it out. There's a buyers kind of through here. As that broke, it provided a very good entry for a sell down. And as we see it at the moment, if you put it on the 4 hour, you might be able to see it a bit better. It is sort of coming back and kind of retesting the underside here. So if we see this sort of roll over and come back down here, that's your line, 708. Those lows, which we had marked out from, I actually had a look at this just before. Generally, I don't look at the charts before I do these videos, but I was interested about this point here, and it was obviously these sort of lows from December last year, which seem to have sort of held a couple of times. You know what I mean? Has been slightly significant. I had it marked out there for some reason, and the market has obviously sort of chosen that as a point to sort of rally a bit off. Look, this could grind back up, close the gap. That'll put pressure on Aussie. If this rolls and pushes down over here, you might see a little bit more of a reprieve with Aussie. So I'll have to sort of wait and see with that one there. Copper, it did actually get its little breakout and came up to these previous highs over here. So I'm out of the copper trade at the moment. It did sort of I did okay. I traded the range for this period here. I got the breakout here. I got stopped out a bunch of times through here, and I just said, look, enough is enough. This is just incredible, just mind-numbing stuff to sort of trade. You're like, yep, oh no, yep, oh no. So look, it has broken out at the moment. It found sellers exactly where we kind of thought it would be. We look left and we sort of see, okay, where are the sellers been coming in previously? Well, up around this area over here. So look, it is consolidating. It looks almost like a little bit of ascending triangle, ready to sort of push up here again. Next sort of level that we look at is going to be this level through here, if I can, whatever, sort of drag through here. Look, it had a little gap itself in that, which I think this was off that China data a couple of weeks ago, and that with Aussie had a little bit of a gap. I don't think it closed either. So copper's actually looking a little bit more constructive. You want to sort of stay above 442, and then above 447, 448. You kind of say, okay, look, the next move, and 45 is the kind of sort of next level that we'd probably be looking at. So it's an area where we've seen sellers previously, obviously, and also it has been a support. So it's an area that we've sort of been focused on for any sort of break above 448. Get above there, well, you're looking at this big falling resistance up over here, but we worry about that when you get to it, because obviously there is going to be a reaction once you come into this zone if you do get a break above it. Starting to see a little bit of action now, so I think maybe that little 11:30 might be a bit of a time for it all. 12 o'clock is generally when I'm expecting a little bit of volume in. All in all, though, it is doing its little rounded bottom here, which is basically what we called from back over here, which was halfway through October. It's almost a month ago now that we expected just this kind of little rounded bottom. on copper here. So pretty clear cut. You break back below here, you're just back into this range, and this is just the same. So obviously made a bit more of an effort and held out here a couple of times with a little back test than it did on this first break. But yeah, I think it's pretty clear cut, sort of the levels that you're looking for there. All right, so not on this one. What are we looking for? This one here, the news. As I said, big one. Expectation is just a hold. So pretty much the press conference 3:30 is what you're looking for there. We do have a little bit of China data coming out just over an hour. Again, look, 50 is the baseline with these sort of things. Slight tick up on that. Stronger there should hopefully sort of help Aussie a little bit. But we'll have to sort of see how that goes. The big things at the moment, as I said, is the RBA, the election, and then we've got ISM tonight as well for US, which is again just 2 a.m. It's just ridiculous hours to be having this sort of this kind of data coming out. And then of course, where is it? Friday morning, local time, we got FOMC. So again, they're looking 25 base point cut. That's pretty much a guaranteed. So the press conference is where you're kind of looking at to sort of see what happens there. All right, that's it from me.